Everybody dance, don't stop. I just need a minute to find out what I'm feeling, cause I'm about to go nuts. And my team is trying to say what's up. I've been waiting for this my whole life. Wanna do it again 3, 4 times, cause it's better than a dream highway with young Lee. I will never get enough. So high, what a nice surprise. You're all I ever had in mind. I'm happy in the sky, a big case of desire. I will never say goodbye. That's right. party, we can go all night. I will show you how to run the red light. If you wanna, you can call me mine. Somewhere on the highway, under the starlight, you tuck me in your arms tight. Damn, it feels right. So what a nice surprise. You're
Welcome back, everyone, to the London Invite. It is showcase time. Last game of the day in the mixed division. Two powerhouse national sides going at it hammer and tongs in the London sunshine. What more could you ask for? Great Britain taking on the Barramundis of Australia. Benjamin Rees with you for the last time today. Delighted to be joined for the first time this weekend by Andrew Hillman. I was going to say afternoon, it's probably evening now, isn't it?
It is evening, yeah. Good to be with you, Benji. Really exciting matchup we've got ahead of us.
I mean, I am bang up for this one. I think it could be, a real corker. Both of these sides have seen each other so far this season. They met at Windmill. Great Britain took that one 14-10, but I must say that it feels like the Aussies have stepped up a gear from their performance in Amsterdam last week. Whereas Great Britain, I think, have not necessarily had it all their own way so far today.
That's right, yeah. Australia have been training in Harrow this week, so I've got a bit of that chemistry cooking. It'll be really interesting to see. I think two pretty evenly matched teams. I think if it is tight, maybe one of the kind of showstopper impact players that we might see is Katie Yoshida for the Barramundis, number one, former World Games player for Japan and for Seattle Riot as well. Real impact player for them.
Katie Yoshida's incredible. Everything she does is so precise and so deliberate that you look at someone who is kind of just textbook mechanically. That is Katie Yoshida. For GB, anyone in particular you want to point out? It can be sometimes a little bit more tricky when you can be somewhat less impartial because you know some players a little bit personally better than others.
Yeah, I mean, watching them today, we've seen that kind of O-line, I think, find a much better groove perhaps than we saw at Windmill. Seen Josh Briggs having a really good impact, hitting some deep shots. We've seen Ellie Taylor having a really good impact downfield. But I think you look at that GB team and they want to play as a unit. They want to be sharing the kind of workload evenly, and I think that makes sense given the depth of their team. That's really their strength.
Yeah, last year, I think you could see it in fits and starts, but it didn't necessarily feel like a completely synergistic unit. And a slight shift and change in personnel this year. You know, some players who play mixed a little bit less, getting those connections down. I think a little bit times last year, we know what Briggs is capable of as a thrower, but there were times when he did feel like he was still adapting to his teammates, and now you can tell that he's just kind of more confident in his targets.
Yeah, that's right. And also finding the rhythm of playing mixed. Speaking to some of the players talking about last year, having to find a balance between playing a kind of women's tempo, which often can be a little bit longer, looking downfield for a couple more beats, and playing men's, which often tends to be very frantic. Really important to find a collective tempo to your offense, otherwise you're always never going to be on the same page. It feels like they've been finding that as this season's been going on. But like I said, some inconsistent performances, you tend to expect that early in the season, but now we're kind of getting towards the meat and drink of the season, and kind of both teams, I think, will be hoping to put in a kind of world championship level performance in this one.
Of course, that is right, that the end goal is the World Championships out on the Gold Coast at the start of September. But while, you know, you kind of seeing the process pragmatically as a whole, you know, big occasion like this, of course you want to win, of course you're going all out for it, you know, because it's what you do. You want to build that winning mentality, build that winning habit.
Absolutely, yeah. You really do. When you get into those big moments of Worlds and you're feeling the pressure, knowing you've played these games and when you were in those tough spots, you came out on top, makes a huge, huge difference. The other thing is we've got a great crowd here, excited to watch a game, and you want to put on a show for them, and it feels that much sweeter when you win, and it does feel a bit rubbish when the other team gets the upper hand.
Yeah, just going through the pre-match slapping of hands. Both sides getting ready before we get set. 70-minute games this weekend at the London Invite. So plenty of time for this game to swing back and forth about as many times as it wishes. Coach is getting some final instructions across, of course, and something a little bit different for GB this year is that they do have a little bit more external oversight. It's tricky sometimes, you know, as a captain when you're tasked with doing some of the coaching and leadership as well, to remove yourself from the game slightly and be a bit more objective about what's taking place. So they've brought Sean Colfer on board, who I think knows pretty much everything there is to know about UK Ultimate and more besides, and he's going to help provide that little bit of a extra nuance, seeing things from the sidelines. He's going to call his first line of the game now. That looks to me like a GBD line. And the fact that Thompson's signalling for a pitch disc, I think, indicates that as well. Becky Thompson, I should of course specify, because playing with her identical twin sister Helen. Barramundi's been looking to get off to a hot start.
I was a bit confused because both teams had put out D-lines, and it turns out the two teams are confused as well, so we might get a slight delay as we work out who is meant to start on offense.
Elite Ultimate, baby, gotta love it. And this is where you bring on an external coach so we can get the flip wrong. There we are, the early mental advantage then gone to Australia. But this is good because you want to start on offense anyway. At least in my book, especially when you're in close games such as these. And it genuinely can be who starts first that proves the decisive factor in the end. Good example of this for me is thinking back at EUC in Hungary for that open final between GB and Germany that went all the way to universe, and it did in the end come down to GB starting on offense. And I was reliably informed that was quite an in-depth discussion about whether or not you start on offense or defense for that game.
It's not just at 14-all that it matters. Early on in those games, you know, feeling like you've got that upper hand, that 1-point lead, it might not feel much, but it kind of gives you that extra kind of confidence, that kind of momentum in the game. Yeah, always nice to start on offense.
Gives you an early marker to set down, and it means that, you know, people are like, well, what if you make a mistake early? But if you're, you know, teams at this level, you should back yourself. Of course, you shouldn't play with that sort of fear. The ball lands out of bounds, and Hodgett will jog to the brick mark. Horizontal setup to start. Hodgett being flanked by Briggs and Pope clears through. So the rapid Taylor gets it underneath. And now huge layout block on the near sideline. Hefty landing from Michaela Dunmore. Comes up clutching that left shoulder collarbone. Yoshida's not a bad player to bring on off the injury stoppage. But, I mean, what a way to start from the Barramundis, who've come roaring out of the traps. Looking down the line for the aforementioned Yoshida. Yoshida trying to find the inside. A couple of players coming towards that open side space. Pick. Get those guns on show. Another down the line, looking for Yoshida. Big pump towards the open side, now breaking across. Ramadan all the way, blading down the far sideline, the layout secures it. debate about whether or not it's inbounds, but I think everyone seems happy that Australia have broken on the game's first point. This is where you want to start on defence.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that. Fantastic defence right from the beginning, firing hard down on those unders, and then Yoshida coming on as the injury sub and going pretty much every other, kind of running that Australia D-line offence. And a lovely break around for the goal.
Not the most graceful layout, I think, from Pauli, but it was mighty effective, and that, of course, is the important thing.
Pauli, one or two players on this Barramundis team that learnt to play in the UK, the other being number 41, Bex Palmer. And early on today in the deep space game, Palmer having a real big impact, a couple of big defensive plays and some extra throws. She's a real great addition for this Australia team. Yeah,
it sucks when the players you enjoy watching move far away, because it means you don't really get to watch them as much. And it's great to see her out there on the grass, well, artificial grass on this pitch at least this weekend. So after the first point, switch of the gender ratio. As Hodgett watching the ball dead centre of his end zone. Briggs to Taylor. Trying to find a way into the centre of the field. Agnew instead down the far sideline. Whips the break into the centre. Wilson wants the continuation. Briggs finds Hanton. And now Agnew in the centre, putting it out into space for Wilson, and he overthrew it. It was there for him if he could just execute.
Yeah, good fluid offense there from GB. Just miss on the throw.
Yeah, the space is there, but I think Agnew just trying to make sure that they could get it all the way into the end zone. Could have maybe just taken a little bit off it and just made sure that at the very least, even if it wasn't a score, Wilson could have got it. Hindsight, of course, is 2020. Broken into the centre. And now the Barramundis with the big boom. Stoddard tried to milk it all the way to the end zone. There he's not open all hours, it seems, but it doesn't matter because they work it calmly from just outside. And Day finds Dang, and that is 2-0 to the Barramundis. Could not have dreamt for a better start.
On that defensive possession, GB have got a couple of men hanging out deep, looking to poach. But one thing you learn with the Australian team is they throw it further than you're expecting, certainly further than you're used to seeing maybe in Europe or from some of the North American teams. They're happy to take those risks on those full field hucks, particularly on the backhand side. They kind of caught out the GB defenders there who thought the cutter had gone too deep and had to be coming under. Just kept going, seized the disc.
And the imaginatively nicknamed lefty, Chris Stoddard, no guesses for why. Yeah, just streaking beyond, utilising that frame well. As long strides, eating up the grass. Barramundis in an excellent position here. 2 breaks right off the bat. Yeah, of course, it's not, game, set and match already, but Great Britain have dug themselves an unwanted hole.
Certainly wouldn't have been part of the plan for the GBD line to be playing a point of offence 3 points in here, but that's where we are.
Just giving the traditional a little bit of a rest out there. Certainly there is enough offensive capability in the 7 that are out there. Spears fields and centres to Becky Thompson. Lenton wants to get it off the line to Spears. Excellent marking as the reset. Lewis is wide open. High rising grab. Not a problem for Melvin Teng. And now Bennett tight on the sideline. Zipping it into the centre to a Chevy teammate Spears. And now Wick Williams, great to see him back in the GB fold after taking a break to try and satiate that wanderlust. Spears past the bidding defender, zips it in to Williams, and Williams finds Lewis, and GB's D-line get the job done on offence, 2-1.
Good possession for GB there. Australia trying to force some difficult decisions with some kind of selective poaching. At the end there, it was Fowler trying to take some steps off into that swing space, force the tight IO throw, but GB remained calm and hit that tight IO, and then from there, there's a thrower without a mark on, able to hit the continuation into the break side.
It's the risk, certainly, when you you leave those gaps, is you are begging them to put it through because you back yourself to make the blocks. The problem is if you don't get there, then all of a sudden, what was a mousetrap is just some free cheese. And GB were pretty hungry for it.
Yeah, it's a risk and reward balance that every D-line has to make their mind up about for themselves. Some teams happy to take lots of those risks, means that they force more kind of high pressure situations, but often they'll give up some easy goals. Other teams will play a bit more passive control. They're looking to kind of keep the offense on the field, force kind of attritional turnovers over the course of more and more passes.
And often teams will have kind of multiple D-lines with multiple different philosophies. So keeping your opposition off balance. Thompson's pull. Is it going to slow up? I think it is going to land out of bounds in the end. Childers, who seems more than aware of the risks the sun poses, which you might expect coming from down under. Going to walk towards the brick mark. Getting Day isolated in the centre. Now Yoshida comes underneath from deeper, and Yoshida with the flick. That is precision as always from Yoshida. And another long-time Australia standout, Mish Phillips, on the score.
GB trying to double mark Yoshida in the lane there. They had a player on the under and on the deep, but instead she slashes into that IO lane. And it's a great, or in fact it's open side, great long downfield pass. And because the field is congested there, the cutter, again, it feels to the defender like they're too deep, but actually it's a pretty easy, classic Japanese kind of bladey huck to that opposite corner from Yoshida.
And absolutely nailed it to Phillips. Mish playing with the Barramundis, and I believe Sister Cat is suiting up for the women's side this year. One of many outstanding ultimate siblings. I've just had food delivered, so I'm a lot happier now. It's been a glorious day. Well, I think probably after about halfway through, the sun decided to come out for good, and since then, yeah, you couldn't really ask for much better conditions. A little bit of a breeze to test throwers. Can't let them have it too easy. As Dunmore, good to see her back out there after that hefty landing on the layout from the first point. Pulls, and now Briggs has a swing available. Does take it to Pope. Briggs up line. Taking the blade all the way over to the far side where Agnew has no mark. Fowler, they do give him license to freelance, don't they? Taylor this time. Popping it forward to Hodgett. Hodgett trying to angle the blade over towards the far side. Agnew looked like maybe cleared Palmer out a little bit there. And there's going to be a discussion about whether that affects the score. I must admit, when this went up, I was sceptical because I could see Palmer in that space. Although it's a case of just Hodgett backing Agnew to nail the blade to the back. It is a little clumsy at best, I think. Goal stands. It's risky when you let a rangy athlete like Palmer get a chance to flash in there.
Yeah, GB, seen them a few times now, kind of attacking deep from that weak side, playing in this vert stack system. And if you've got good heads-up defenders like Palmer there for Australia, then it is a risky shot. Yeah, hard to know. You're kind of one of those that the two players involved have a better idea of idea of the contact, but the key thing there is the throw still blading towards that far side makes it much easier for Agnew than it does for Palmer to get a read and get position.
Yeah, because you can see it out there, but you can't quite feel it. You know, how much was there? Which way was it going? And with mixed, whenever there's cross-gender contact, regardless of how it actually played out, it's never necessarily great optics. Bennett will pull here. Going for the inside-out backhand, looking to pin Aussie in the back corner. Cook fields and centres. Here's the live wire Halden down the far side to the gloved Day. Into the centre, Yoshida out of the hands quickly. Chodos now. Cook once more. No, he's a man who can deliver in those pressure scenarios. Phillips rips it deep, looking for Yoshida towards the back cone. It doesn't matter who's throwing and who's catching it, those two really do have the chemistry down.
Australia's offense really clicking at the moment. Seeing Kodos catch those kind of centering passes and throwing those continuations. That's a role that we saw him do a lot at Windmill. It's a thing that Australian teams, I think, in general, tend to like to have one kind of central handler that's a bit of a metronome, who likes to catch those resets, move the disc on. You think of Tom Tullett doing such a good job for them for the World Games team in 2022.
But they are no strangers, even the more sensible quote-unquote handlers, to throwing a little bit of spice when necessary. Partly because, you know, they back themselves in those downfield spaces. You know, as you mentioned, they really can stretch you the full depth of the end zone. And whether they've got, you know, height mismatches down there or whether it's the speed across the grass, yeah, they are certainly happy to utilise the full field dimensions. It's
a pleasure to get teams coming from outside Europe to play these tournaments.
Isn't it? Yeah.
One of the really interesting things is adjusting to the way they play. Particularly the teams spend most of the time playing against themselves. It's easy to get into the habit of expecting certain throws and not expecting others. You get to play teams from all over the world, and often you spend a while adjusting to the different options they prefer.
Yeah, there's a certain hegemony between the way sides from certain cultures play, and this is why it's such a good opportunity to have to, like the Barramundi, making this European trip, of course with Windmill last week, and London Invite here. Kwon to Wilson. Agnew, it's over him, but Helen Thompson got the call to provide the backup. Flips to Hodgett. Hodgett trying to lead Kwon into space, and it never got the edge required. Uncharacteristic, that one from Hodgett, who is usually so measured in his throws. But I think just guilty, of trying not to get too much angle, and in the end got it angled the other way. Davey from the front co. Agnew trying to lock him down, and they are able to just about find that release valve. Davey back to Stoddard. Stoddard gutting it. Thompson coming in to position, and Briggs was just about able to close as well. I thought when the shot went up that it was Thompson's disc, but was really well tracked in towards the end zone by Bartram. In the end, Briggs closed the door just in time. Deep shot now going the other way. Agnew watches it drop into the bucket. Wilson wants to provide the outlet, going short, just outside. And the elaborate jump in there from Agnew for the score. Australia applying some pressure, but GB held firm.
More opportunities for Australia to extend their lead. Not quite able to take advantage there. In the end, it was Briggs that got the D, but Thompson helping off the far side. There was one Australian female cutter hanging out very deep on that far side rail, allowing for that deep poach to come. And I think, given the position of the players, it was quite an aggressive deep shot from that Australian D-line.
And if you know one thing about Josh Briggs when he's got the disc in hand, it's that you better watch out for the flick bomb. because if you don't, that is what will happen. Agnew striding beyond, and Wilson unselfishly didn't want to, you know, burn into the end zone, said, I'm just going to provide this outlet and then I can bounce it back to you.
I knew when the GB squad lists were announced a couple of years ago that Briggs to Agnew was going to be a quality connection.
You feel like there's so much talent there that it'll work. You know, yes, it'll have kinks, but in the end, they're just too, as players, they're just too good to not make it work. Paul's going to draw towards the far side. Chodos catches and swings to Halden. GB zoning this time. Talk me through this look, Andy.
So, this is a look that GB have utilised a lot at Windmill last week. It's a little bit less windy here, so you can see them not using quite so much. But you've got three players at the front trying to hold a pretty flat wall.
And they're forcing those over the tops, but they snuck that over the head of Melvin Tang. And Bub, with Becky Thompson closing, brings it down with a left hand for 5-3.
Aggressive option from the Australians to break through that zone there. Maybe if Melvin Tang had seen the disc a little bit earlier, but it was a pretty well executed throw. Both Australia and GB utilised zones very frequently at Windmill last week, as you would expect, given some of the wind. But both actually playing some really effective zone defense, particularly preventing the downfield throws in the middle and then trapping teams on the sideline, using these kind of 3 players at the front, 3 in a kind of middle space, 1 player deep, but flexibility around adjusting to the positions of those offensive handlers in particular.
Barramundis just keeping the advantage they earned early doors with those 2 breaks right off the bat. Nothing for either side since then. But plenty of time left in this contest. Time cap at 70 minutes. So just 20 gone, 50 left. Australia getting ready to march another D-line out there and seeing if they can exacerbate the misery here for GB, who are, you know, still very much in this game. After a rocky start, they found their feet. Briggs picking it up off the floor and then bouncing it back of Pope. Wilson choosing the shorter option. Palmer tries to flash in. Agnew stands firm. Now running the quick one with Agnew, who technically changed his pivot foot there. She shouldn't have done. Doesn't matter that he said it wrong at the start. Blading around to Kwon. And now Wilson with the one hand just macked it round the corner. Thought GB were working it nicely, but yeah, I'm not sure why Wilson made it. Was it a focus error? Did he see the other GB player in his peripheral vision? Australia, I'm not sure will mind too much. Palmer zipping it towards the far sideline where the low catch is picked up by Ruiz. Now underneath, Copland. He's going to shoot it with the blade, looking for Powley in behind Briggs. Briggs tips it, it's still there, and Powley catches it anyway. Catch your D, Briggs, or that'll happen. Aussies break once more at 6-3. That's what, you know, that's what a D-line does, is they take shots because A, they back themselves to get it back, and B, you know, they've got athletes downfield who they back to win those one-on-one matchup. Briggs looked like he covered it well, but just not quite well enough.
And when you're under pressure, it doesn't always feel like those kind of breaks go for the other team. Briggs getting the D, but D'ing it right into this wind, which is kind of blowing across the field, and it bouncing back up perfectly for Powley to get it on the second attempt.
I certainly had eyebrows raised at the shot selection from Copland, but it worked out for him in the end. Well, if you don't take the chances, they'll never come up. Can't win the lottery without buying a ticket. Use whichever cliche you like.
Australia putting their zone out on that last point. Almost often seems to happen that team follows one zone point with another. Almost if they remember, the other team kind of reminds them, oh yeah, we've got a zone
We could do that too, couldn't we?
But GB looked pretty comfortable against it, and then as they were kind of breaking out and Australia were looking to transition, just an unfortunate drop. Sort of been the story for GB so far. The offenses look pretty smooth, but a couple of individual execution errors that have been the difference.
Hodgett fields on his knees and swings to Briggs. Taking a little bit of time for cutters downfield to get in motion.
Taylor's run about 100 yards there to catch that under after an excellent deep cut.
I mean, that's what Taylor will do. Her engine is frankly unreal. Kwon gunning it. Can Thompson track it over the far side? Again, too many GB players in the area, and maybe they got in each other's way slightly. Ramadan looking long, and too long for Stoddard. GB get away with it. Briggs with a slow jog there. Just wasn't to be on the deep look for Helen Thompson. Vertical set with Hodgett as the reset. Davey drops off to prevent the front of stack option. Taylor trying to burn all the way through to the open side. Briggs takes on the break instead to Kwon. Kwon sneaking it down the line. Briggs pops up. Taylor's gone deep. Briggs is going to put it. You know it. Taylor's got speed. Can she get there? Not quite. Just kept on going. A little bit off it, and it would have been good. But you know that Taylor was going to fully commit regardless. That was really not far away. But GB misfiring a little bit on those deep shots. Davey to the front. Day powers through. Now breaking well into the centre. Stoddard pumps the backhand. Helen Thompson motors underneath. Yoshida slowed up a little bit. Briggs with the quick pickup. They've got the disc back to Briggs. If Kwon can break, which she can. Squeeze it past Yoshida, who flashes in. GB trying to get that end zone offense set. Wilson's not quite in yet. That'll work. Wilson to Hodgett for the score. 5-3. Sorry, not 5-3. 6-4 even. My brain's lagging behind a little bit.
Slightly unusual turnover for Australia there. It looked like Yoshida thought perhaps her defender had peeled off on a deep cut or something like that, but actually she was right on that shoulder and able to accelerate past for the D. And then some nice dump swing to capitalise, punch it in.
Yeah, it looked like the Aussie defence was never really set after that turn. I think Great Britain taking advantage of players out of position. Some Barbarians loitering on that far side. Steve McCreary put on a tie. Has he got a job interview? Surprisingly smart. Lovely to see a busy grandstand over there. So I guess exactly what the idea of the showcase games is. It's been a long day, please excuse my grammar. 6-4 then, Australia leading Great Britain. First half from this mixed showcase pool play game here at the London Invite.
Enjoying the show? Show your support for the live stream and the people making the show. Buy a super chat or super sticker on YouTube directly. Select your donation and type your message to the world. And share. All donations go into directly funding new shows. Buy a super sticker or super chat now. Thank you.
Search for Hive Ultimate on YouTube to learn about our cutting-edge strategies and to see analysis of world-class teams. To find out what Hive can do for your team, head over to our Patreon page where you can gain access to our exclusive drills and session plans and to join our worldwide community of coaches. Get ahead of the curve with Hive Ultimate.
A beautiful Saturday evening here at the London Invite. Mixed division action, Australia up 6-4 on GB. Benji Rees and Andy Hillman with you on the sidelines with the best view in the house. Howden fields the ball deep in his own end zone. Williams just sagging off Howden there. As Aussie's number 8, utilising that throw and go motion so devastatingly. Yoshida, oh, sold Taylor there. Applying the brakes slightly, but Mish Phillips will look to pick up the tempo. Yoshida with a tight catch under pressure from Ruth Taylor. Goes back to Chodos, and Yoshida once more. Measuring the flick a little bit high, but not a problem for Howden. Howden into the end zone for the score. An assured possession, that one, from the Barramundis.
Cool offense there. I think GB put some pressure on, particularly in the handler set. Saw Taylor there getting the Yoshida march up, and Ogden on Godos, two really good defenders in small spaces. Taylor particularly last year was a real breakout player for this team, providing a lot of that defensive fire and having a big impact, lots of blocks, lots of forced turnovers with some really good downfield and reset defense.
But there was a point about midway through where it felt like Australia were getting a bit bogged down, but once they were able to get it off and they started having a bit more intention about getting the disc off on lower stall counts, it felt behooved them well. Australia looking like they're trying to pick their matchups here. Four female, 3 male matching players at this point. As you can tell from the female puller, are all that we've had in place for a few years now, and it almost feels like, why did we ever do anything different? Hodgett to Thompson. Agnew wants to initiate underneath, but instead forced back to Hodgett and now Taylor. Had Wilson on this sideline at the first time of asking. Now he clears out. Taylor slides the blade through to Hodgett. Looking for Agnew in the backfield. Sounds like a forced middle from the Australia defence. Yeah, we can hear you. The two Scots, Agnew and Taylor, playing between themselves. And now Wilson, wonder if he eyed up the shot to Pope, but decided better off it. Hodgett tries to power through. What a grab made there by Wilson. Pops up the subsequent throw. Agnew tips it on, but they don't come up with it. Wilson having done so well to bring down a high throw of his own, then responded in kind, and Agnew couldn't answer the call. The Barramundis can break for half here. Hodgett's coming off. Can't see he's wearing some sort of compression on that left hamstring, so I wonder if that's the problem area for him. Fisher Day is going to come on for the Barramundis. Copland is a big shooter for them, and this time ripped the inside that Dunmore again laid out to catch. Doesn't connect with Palmer, but finds Owens instead. Now Day. Breaking well off to Fowler. Fowler shooting. Can he fit it in there today before Agnew closes? Measured it to perfection, and the Barramundis are rocking and rolling. They will take an 8-4 half-time lead.
Agnew saw the threat pretty early at the back of the stack there, but that throw pushing right down the sideline and just into the space where Day was going to get to it first. Precision option.
Yeah, Fowler has had a really impactful game against his home nation here. He just nails that throw into the window. And as you mentioned, Agnew saw the danger, saw the threat, just couldn't close it in time. A goal and an assist for Fisher Day, the number 98 for the Barramundis, who, it has to be said, looked pretty good value for this 8-4 half-time advantage. It was a relatively handy GB win when these two sides met at Windmill, but the game following an entirely different script this evening.
They're looking really strong. Obviously only one half, and mixed is probably the most unpredictable of the divisions. That's why we love it. But at the moment, looking good. And that shouldn't necessarily be a surprise, I think. Obviously, perhaps at Wimble, maybe they'd be a little bit disappointed to have not made semis, finishing 6th in the end. But this Australia mixed kind of pedigree is pretty much as good as they get. Silver medals in Sakai, silver medal in London, and silver medal again with the World Games 2 years ago. The Australians, when it really matters, they really know how to put together a really good mixed outfit.
And London Invite is where it really matters, of course. Good conversion ratio for Australia on their break chances. GB have only turned Australia's O-line over once, and I know that Australia's O-line hasn't necessarily been out there that as much as GB would have liked, but when they have been out there, they've been nearly faultless. And it's hard to get breaks if you can't get the disc back. Lots of soul searching for Great Britain to do then during this half-time break. 8-4 Australia with the advantage on your Saturday evening showcase here at the London Invite.
Help us go electric, become a member.
Those who do not know their history can never relive it. The skies, the dives, the sideline smiles. Our past is held in photo albums, drinking stories. The present is a gift. And here at ULTI.TV, we want to make sure we always appreciate it, capturing the immortal moments of Ultimate from around the world and making sure everyone can enjoy them for free, forever. Because the future belongs to all of us. The ultimate things in life are free, and we're keeping it that way. Subscribe to keep up with the latest games, tournaments, and community content. Share.
Second half underway. The Barramundis with the 8-4 advantage, beginning the second stanza on offense. Seems like they like that matchup of Taylor up against Yoshida. Phillips whips the flick into the centre. Shortest to Stoddard. And now Haldon. He's never still for too long, even with the disc in hand. He's always bouncing on his feet. A little Oscar Possinger-esque, actually. Down the far sideline, and Stoddard, lefty, zips it in to the end zone to Bub for the score. The second half for Australia started in much the same way as the first.
Excellent tempo again from Australia. Defenses, particularly when they're on the back foot, are looking for those scenarios where they can slow the offense down and look to be more aggressive. Australia doing a great job of keeping that tempo high, keeping the defense on the back foot, making it hard for the defenders to know where the threat is.
Yeah, you can see there that GB don't necessarily have everyone available. Andy Turner knocked his collarbone in the game against Reading, and I think they're just keeping him out of this as a precaution. Of course, you see Alice Beeching and Carla Link, who were kind of longer-term absences for them. But for the Barramundis, you can only beat what's in front of you. And looks like Stolar's getting his number called again. He's going to go right back out there for defence. You can see that's the sort of energy that the Barramundis are bringing, is that they just want to be out there all the time. They're loving life right now in the London sun.
It's been a long day here at Grasshoppers Stadium, but when you're 9-4 up, you find that extra bit of...
It doesn't feel that long, does it? I mean, we've been here since, you know, the gates opened just before 8 AM this morning. And while these sides could probably get a little bit of a later start with their first game not to 11:40, even so, that's a long time ago. Watch it to Wilson. Past the bidding defender, and now Agnew. And that's one that Hanson will want back. Just off her hands. Feels like it's been that sort of game for Great Britain, just too many unforced errors. And to the Barramundis' credit, when they've been given those opportunities, they have more than taken advantage of them. Big swing to the centre. Oh, it's a little bit offline. Briggs picking up quickly. Wilson thought he might try and thread through to Kwan, but instead Briggs comes back. Taking advantage of the mark, sitting off Wilson there. Hanson going wide. Pope has time to chase it down. Pumps the backhand into the centre. Oh, it rises, and Briggs rips it away. Hanson once more. Briggs taking control. Hanson to Wilson, still not in. That'll work. Wilson punching it into Briggs. GB Mix on the board in the second half. Disciplined red zone defence there from the Aussies. Fought their own, and then it might be bend but don't break. But eventually GB get the job done.
Commentator's curse there from Benji, helping GB get the disc back.
See? I am good for something. And it does feel like, again, as soon as that was turned over, Briggs picked it up, had it in hand. Trying to put the Aussies to the sword off the turn. Can they now begin to generate some pressure defensively? As someone who's known as a defensive thinker yourself, what would your game plan be at this point?
Well, Australia are playing with good tempo, so first thing you're trying to do is slow that down. If that means getting players into handler lanes, if that means getting defenders poaching deep off the weak side so that your kind of active defenders can really concentrate on the unders. Anything that slows those tempo and makes the team go side to side and kind of lose their rhythm, that's your priority. Once they've lost that rhythm, that's when you can go look for those opportunities to be more aggressive.
Force them into second, third looks.
Roller pull is a great example of that, preventing them throwing, running their pull plays, making them start from a situation that's a little bit unconventional, a little bit uncomfortable.
Kovshov took a little bit of time to get into position on the mark, but it has certainly gotten to those initial plays. Lewis marking up against Halden. Now Yoshida. Can GB trap them on the line? The reset throw is low, back to Yoshida. And now Chodos with Day charging deep, looking towards the far side of the end zone. Bennett tries to flash in front, but Day wins the race. Good idea. You definitely see the thinking again. Stop the pull play, get them off platform, force them into backup options and force them to play a more natural game. But Australia were able to set themselves and find the deep game that has been very fruitful for them in this contest.
And at the moment, Australia really finding their rhythm, and you see particularly everyone's playing their role pretty much perfectly. You can see Kodos and Yoshida combining in the backfield there, and Fisher Day catching unders, running quick resets and attacking deep. It's been a really effective deep threat for them all day.
Yeah, there's been a clear game plan for the Barramundis, and generally they have been able to execute that as they have wished. The rolling pull penned them in tricky field position, but they were nerveless in dealing with it. Seen a lot of Australian mix today, and it feels like they've just got better as the day has progressed, even though the competition has, you look at the results at least, got tougher as they've gone on, which I think says a lot about a side that you improve your game as the quality around you improves as well. Dunmore pulls. Briggs claps. And now Thompson with the Aussies. It feels like they are sitting in the middle of the field there. They know that's the space GB want to attack. So Great Britain going down the side. Thompson breaks to Pope. Back to Helen Thompson. Agnew to Pope, with Great Britain shuttling it laterally for now. Wilson, defender tries to flash in and doesn't get there. Now you can run the jailbreak. The gauntlet is off, and Briggs, who'd done pretty much nothing, just kind of lurking that point, biding his time, comes up with the score in the end.
Good play from GB there. Australia got a little bit of a warning where on that far sideline, initially GB found a little gap through the middle, weren't able to take advantage, but again, Australia ending up with too many players in front of the disc, and on that second attempt, all the GB players are perfectly positioned to run that jailbreak to the opposite corner.
It's then, you see there, almost just teasing Ramadan into come, you can get this one, go on, you know you want to. He takes the cheese, and then bang, he's out of position, and they're off. You've got to be so disciplined when you're kind of one of those downfield players, because if you're going to come in for it, you better make mighty sure that you're getting it. If you don't, you are leaving all that space, and GB recognised that and were ruthless in just running it past him. For GB, again, it's about trying to earn some of these breaks that they need if they're going to make a game of it. But the Australian offence has been humming on all cylinders this evening. I think they were looking for the rolling pull again, but if you throw it right out the sideline, that's not quite going to work. Chodos is going to brick it, which makes a bit of sense. I think it's not going to lose that many yards, and we'd rather get it in the centre, especially because we know that GB were maybe looking at setting up a sideline trap with the trajectory of that pull.
Yeah, when the other team tries to roll one out and fails, you don't want to give them it anyway. Take it to the middle.
Stoddard central to Chodos. And now Phillips in front of Melvin Teng. Churning up yards downfield. Things very tight to that sideline and the low pass. Howden hand up in recognition. Could have had that. Spears jogs, and the swing to Lewis in and off his hand. I wonder if Stoddard got a piece of that on the mark. Howden flips in for the score. GB's D-line finally getting a turn, and then unable to do anything with it having done so, which unfortunately, a bit of a running theme for the GB sides this evening. Did look like it was tipped on the mark, actually.
GB looking a little bit deflated there. I think they know that was a really important opportunity.
And with a numerical advantage there in the end zone. Was not an opportunity that Australia were going to let slip. That does feel like a real good chance waited for Great Britain. Sure, you're not going to hit on all of your defensive possessions, you know, as much as you'd like to. That's so rarely happens, but at the very least, you want to, you know, push them down the other end of the field and make them go the full central zone again.
And you have to give credit to Australia. Their O-line's been so clean throughout this game that that D-line hasn't touched the disc since warm-ups.
That's fair. That is very fair.
And it does mean you feel a little bit uncomfortable. It feels a little bit unfamiliar. and so those first couple of passes can be trickier than you're expecting.
I think there was the one time when they brought the D-line over to play offense at the start of the game, but otherwise, yeah, just a couple of touches between them. Brings to Kwon down line. Hanson takes off deep. Oh, Kwon in stride from the power position. Slings it down the sideline. Hanton in stride. Expertly done.
Really nice, well-timed cut from Hanton there. One of the new players on GB Mixed for this season. The player has a really nice impact, kind of providing a nice kind of filling a really nice role on that GB Mixed O-line.
And that's a beautiful put from Kwon. It's perfectly judged down that sideline, where your margin for error is not necessarily the largest. Some of the smog lads and lasses enjoying the evening from that little hillock in the distance. Not a bad place to watch, with maybe some beverages from the Grasshoppers Clubhouse, who have been as hospitable as always. Lovely to come back for a third year on the trot. And it feels like a nice little relationship you've built up with Grasshoppers over the past few years.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a great venue. They've been very accommodating hosts. Hopefully we'll get to do this many more years in the future.
It's just a shame it's on the wrong side of London, really, he says biasedly.
I don't think many people here would disagree.
I feel out of place in West London. I'm a man of the people. Knowing look to camera. Yoshida and Howden. Well, how often do you see that? Surely now, GB with a glorious opportunity for a break. Errors starting to creep into the Australian game. Thompson. Ogden clears through, but breaking instead to Spears. Spears putting air underneath it. 3 defenders in the area, and Howden earns it back. That was not the one. Just far too much air there. And when it hangs, so much time, and of course, Howden doesn't have to worry about staying in bounds, so he can attack it full pelt. Taylor puts the force on Yoshida. Ogden going a good job of mocking the reset. Oh, Phillips just about gets it in front of Lenton. And now off the hands of Yoshida! Oh, Katie Yoshida, stop it! Now banging it downfield for Charnas. Ogden, Bidge doesn't get there, tries to muck it all the way in, just shy. The crowd loving it, and it's always nice when you can dump it backwards and still get the score. Howden in the end. But, oh, the Aussies playing with fire. But the asbestos hands at the moment. First Phillips under pressure from Lenton, and then Kaede Yoshida with an all-star level play, as if you would ever expect anything else.
When they score there, the entire Australian team running to Yoshida, because that grab was unbelievable. And once she's made it, you feel like she's almost got to throw the huck next. The crowd kind of encouraging her on, and again, it's a great throw.
It's a huge thumb in the eye of the conservation, the concept of the conservation of greatness, to be honest. And then Charnas throws it backwards, and Howden hops it in for the score. The offensive fluency has certainly deserted Australia. You know, last couple of points they've turned it over. That time could have turned it over multiple times on just that final possession. But again, Great Britain unable to take advantage of those opportunities, and everyone's going to have a look at the camera, see if they got a shot of it. Sounds like there's a discussion on the sidelines of whether Yoshida was expecting that throw to go, and I think for everyone else, the idea is your Kaede Yoshida, the throw is going to go. In the same position, I'd have thrown it as well. Pope. GB trying to play the fundamental dump swing. Briggs clearing through. Agnew pumping, but holstering. Wilson to Pope. Pope shelving the big look herself. Plenty of space for the swing. Briggs looking for the inside-out backhand. I love the shape of that throw. He's got a backhand as well, folks. It's not just a flick.
Australia attempting a poachier set of defense there. Lots of switching, lots of blitzing into dangerous spaces. But in the end, the switching and the bracketing and the communication breaks down, and GB able to hit a free Agnew in the deep space.
It's a wonderful throw from Briggs. Not over-exaggerated inside-out shape, but just enough to cut across the field. Hitting Agnew in stride, and he almost had his thumbs up in appreciation even before he'd made the catch. Time out here on the field with time running away from GB Mix to find a way back into this game, but they are generating more defensive pressure, and for them, I think it's just a question of we are still very much in this game. Certainly it feels, they're breaking their huddle pretty quickly, and it feels like they're trying to keep that energy and intensity up. Break those huddles quicker, get on the line nice and early. See if you can kind of force yourselves to dictate the timing and the tempo of the game. Just those kind of mini mind games, the game within the game.
Such an important part of the game, kind of winning that energy battle often doesn't get talked about too much because it's quite hard to pinpoint what you can do to make the difference. Sometimes you feel flat and raising the energy is difficult. Sometimes it feels like you've got, the energy to run and make big plays for days.
I think it's important as teams that you have those, those quote-unquote hype machines who are there to bring the energy even when things aren't going your way. And, sometimes, maybe they're not necessarily the glue pieces offensively or the tone setters defensively, but they bring the vibes and they bring that kind of, that pointed, focal kind of pivot that the team kind of energy hangs around. Like, sorry to bring this up, but you compare how Canada's energy today compared to yesterday, and right before that very first pull, you could tell there was so much more vocal and so much more oomph in what they were doing from the sideline. Yossida sold me with the fake. Now running it again, watching it all the way into her hands as they cross halfway. Ogden doing a really good job of marking out Chodos there. And zero spin on that one from Yoshida. Doesn't matter in the end. Now looking deep. Ogden comes over the top of Chodos. He'd been doing such a good job preventing him of getting that reset, and he gets his just rewards coming over the top to block the deep shot. That's my guy right there, Ogden. Lewis down line. Looking to swing, a bit of air underneath it, but time for Thompson to track. And now the edge taking it away, Melvin 10 snags. Wynn picking up slightly. Lewis. Now Lenton. GB's D-line beginning to move it. Nice high grab stuck there from Thompson. Thompson's gunning it, looking for Lewis. He's got steps if he can track it. Oh, not quite. You could hear the gasps from the crowd, willing it into Lewis's hands, but it was just beyond. The roof would have come off if he'd stuck it. I know that we're outdoors, but the metaphorical roof at least.
Quite an effort from Lewis. He gets a hand on it, but he's so far off the ground when he catches that there's quite a lot of impact when he lands, and that impact strips out of his hand.
And Lewis, a little bit shaken up, comes to the sideline. Howden's going to come on for the Barramundis in place of Stoddard. Just trying to see who came on for GB. Spears, I think. Lewis just taking some breaths on this sideline. Hopefully that's not the end of his impact. Howden has an option on the near side before getting it back. Yoshida. They know that she can throw it. Arcing the blade around. Howden and Day can just bounce it between themselves for now. And then punched in to Dorothy Lee. GB's D-line, they're coming so close. They just can't quite get it done at the end. And Australia, at the second time of asking, put them to the sword. It always helps when you get stuck in jams, if you can see those options, open up that space, throw players free. And Howden's the perfect player to start some of that motion because always on the balls of his feet. As soon as he's got it and he's releasing it, bang, that first step creates the space. And he finds Lee for the score in the end, who quietly has scored 3 goals this game and feels like a snuck under the radar a little bit. But a very impactful performance from Dorothy Lee. It's nice when you've got players like that where they put in the hard yards and their impact sometimes goes unnoticed. But you look back on the game and you think, yeah, they were kind of all over the place.
Takes a lot of different roles to make a functional line. You need your players that are catching every other disc. You need your players that are churning yards downfield. Sometimes you need players that are just finishing off the points, timing those continuation cuts.
It's a handy skill to have, scoring lots of goals. I assume anyway, it's not one I ever possessed. Quan to Wilson. Getting it off the line to Taylor. Past the binning Powler. Now Quan, Briggs. A bit of rhythm about GB's play. Hanson in the centre. One of those players tasked with churning up yards downfield. Nice leading throw there to Hodgett. Getting it central. Dump swing to Wilson. This time we'll just get the sure thing rather than milking it all the way in because we can follow that up into Hanson. That was a really slick offensive possession there from the Brits.
Smooth goal from GB. They started out with a pull play, clearing the central cutters deep and having one of the far side cutters slash across, something they've done earlier in this game as well. And then they were able to bounce the disc back to the other side and they were off. And it feels like GB Mix's O-line offense is at its best often when they're able to get into the kind of end zone offense and dump swing the disc side to side nice and quick. Maybe haven't been as effective starting further down the field, looking to initiate some of those cuts from the back of the stack.
Yeah, another timeout here on the field. Australia with a huge advantage. GB Mix trying and trying, just have been unable to break through. Can they finally find a way over? We'll find out when the London invite returns.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
We are a group of Ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund
our
work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
The night just threatening to draw in here in the capital. London invite, mixed showcase. Australia up 13-8 on GB. And Benji Reese and Andy Hillman for you on the sideline with the best seat in the house. Well, I say seat, we're both standing up, but again, you know what I mean. Day. Can he find his way past Williams? Forced to take the reset into the centre. Kovshov up against Chodos. Taylor commits, but a step shy. Yoshida takes advantage of the poach to Howden. What a block from Nick Williams! He exploded like he was shot out of a cannon. Now Spears looking down the line. Thompson thinks she had it and Cook stripped it. Obviously the crowd, as with any call, is fully behind them. When you're making a call like that, does the crowd have an impact on you, or do you just, how much are you able to actually shut it out?
It depends. Sometimes you're really immersed in the game and you don't even notice. Sometimes it can be a bit distracting. It's a bit annoying when when you get some boos and they're maybe, let's say, party boos for the fun.
Yes.
Sometimes you get some constructive criticism from the crowd, giving you a bit of input on what an impartial observer really thinks.
A devilish break there from Thompson to Spears, and now Bennett finds Williams. GB finally get the break. Is it too little, too late? Well, you've got to start somewhere. And trapped tight on the sideline. A wicked inside from Thompson gave them the time to get the break side continuation flowing. And Williams with a bookends that, I mean, the score was finished well. Here's that look from Thompson. That is filthy, frankly. But all about really the block from Williams that earned GB the turn. I mean, what a flying layout from Williams. Couldn't happen to a nicer fella.
Incredible play, and he's being cheered back onto the line by his GB Mixed teammates.
Yeah, I think when you make it play like that, if you want a point off, sure, but I don't think you'd complain about getting a chance to go out there and do it again.
I suspect the instruction's pretty simple. Same again, please.
Yeah, how many more of those flying layout blocks do you have left in you, Nick? Probably a few, knowing him, actually.
And with the game coming towards the end, GB tightening their line, so Taylor's playing another D point as well.
Davey to Stoddard. Good dump coverage there by Lenton, but they are able to get it off. The reset to Brereton. Downfield, Ogden. That's Davey. To Dang. Losing a fair bit of field position with the reset. Aussie offense trying to adjust. Sits it out to space for Stoddard. Now C, shooting just out of Lewis's reach, and Dang tracks to the end zone to bring Australia within one of the win.
Some good defense downfield there from GB. I don't think the Australia offense was in complete rhythm, but what they were doing there was they were running really hard, which often isn't the easiest thing to do when you've just got broken. But attacking under, attacking deep, and eventually you're going to get free, and that's how it went for Australia there.
Yeah, just freshening up the line a little bit to get those extra bit of energy and intensity from those other players on the sideline. I see the Belgium lads who are, I mean, you can take the boys out of Belgium, I guess, but beer over here is probably not quite as good.
The Belgian boys earlier embracing being at the rugby club, practicing with rugby ball. Some of their throwing and kicking could do some work, but nice to see them having a go at something new.
See, I thought that, but it's rich for me to say, as the very little rugby I played was basically they'll put me at hooker because my legs won't reach the floor, and that's good for kind of raking the ball back. At least I think that's what I was doing. When my partner tells me I've got a hooker's body, I just kind of nod sagely and think I'm in Wales, this is a good thing, but you never know. Briggs has Wilson. Hanton begins to accelerate deep. So keep going, wanted Briggs to follow all the way through. Hanton Breaking across. Ooh, that was awkward, but it seems that Dunmore's okay, which is the main thing. Maybe just got a cleat stuck in the turf slightly. Wilson zipping it to Briggs. Briggs, oh my word, rifled the blade. Palmer, I thought, was certain to get the block. Agnew held firm. And, yeah, a little bit of a heater, that one. And I feel like that shouldn't have worked, but it did.
Remarkably similar to the shot earlier in the game. Again, with Palmer poaching off, seeing the cut well from Agnew. The throw going anyway, and somehow Agnew's able to get it.
I mean, it really had to be ripped in there from Briggs, otherwise Palmer was going to get it. And again, it's that recognition from Palmer that is so good, sensing where that hotspot is, trying her best to get in there. Again, just too much juice on it in the end. Obviously a partisan crowd here in London, but the Barramundi at least have one supporter about, what, 5 metres behind me. Mike Palmer on cam 1 with a beer in hand. Someone called him Adelaide's finest, which I think reflects more on Adelaide than it does on Mike Palmer. Just kidding, Mike, I love you. ULTI.TV crew have worked tirelessly all day. All gas, no brakes for Mike and Felix on the cameras and on the desk behind me. Australia looking to finish this on a high and close out GB. Yoshida. Today, with Williams on his pocket. Jodas continues to Halden. Halden, air underneath it, leading Fisher into the end zone for the score and the win. The Barramundis suffered a 4-point loss at Windmill and they have reversed it here. I wonder if they get a chance to play a rubber match tomorrow. As it is, the final score is Australia 15, GB 11. And Australia, in the second half, they began to give GB more opportunities, but really, in the end, an almost faultless first half performance gave them that big advantage that they never surrendered.
Yeah, a strong performance from the Barramundis. And again, in that final point, you see what was kind of really so effective for them. Yoshida moving the disc early, Godos getting the kind of high value reset on that IO, and then finishing with the cut to Fisher Day, who was just running downfield. Seems like he had endless energy, always open.
You could tell that Windmill things weren't quite properly clicking for the Barramundis, but with more time out there on the grass, you could see how things would begin to fit together. And just getting those important reps in looked like they might play dividends in the end. Here are the game stats for you. Only generated one turn in the first, one break chance in the first half. Great Britain, 3 more in the second, and they were able to punch one of those in. The Aussies 4 for 9 in the end. Their offense slightly cleaner, as you might well expect. Yeah, stuff for both sides to take from this game, I think. Even if you lose the game, don't lose the lesson. And for Great Britain, I think certainly there are lots of things they can look to take into a possible rematch tomorrow.
Absolutely. You know, it's a long season for these teams, playing lots of preparation tournaments, and you're always looking for those kind of marker performances that give you a lot of trust and confidence that this is our level and this is what we can kind of work on from. But when it doesn't always happen, and it won't when you're still working as part of a process, it's important to take the positives and think about what you can do next time. And next time for these teams very well could be tomorrow afternoon. So that's always nice if you don't get the advantage in one game, if you get the opportunity to avenge it just the next day, as we saw just a couple of hours ago for Canada against the GB men's team.
So just a little sizzle reel for you. That was right from the very first point. GB completed one pass, and then Michaela Dunmore did that. I think just showing that the Aussies had very much came to play in the evening sun. Not that we would have expected anything else necessarily. There were moments when GB were rhythmic in what they were doing, getting the disc moving quickly. As Conor McHale is trying to get everyone to go into the bar. A noble pursuit if ever there was one. Play of the game, surely, from Kaede Yoshida. just continues to defy gravity, defy the odds. Huge layout block there from Williams, but Aussie's first half execution and the Barramundis made hay while the sun shined here on a glorious Saturday evening in London to bring an end to day one of our coverage here from the London Invite. Thank you very much for watching, but you know where to be. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning once more. Semi-finals in all 3 divisions before we have the women's, the open and the mixed final as well. So plenty of Ultimate to come here at the London Invite of the very highest quality as well, which is exactly why you know where to be when time comes. 9 AM UK time tomorrow morning, right here, live and free on ULTI.TV. Why would you want to be anywhere else? On behalf of the wonderful ULTI.TV crew, Mike and Felix, for Andy Hillman and our revolving door of commentators who have very generously volunteered their time to be alongside me today, Benji Reese signing out. We'll see you on the other side for London Invite's finals day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, Milan. I mean, Ultimate.
ULTI.TV.
Something in my brain wants you. I've been hanging by myself, asking for help, but nothing seems to work on you. Yeah, you always make me feel like home. Yeah, you never leave my thoughts alone. Yeah, you're the reason I'm going out my mind. I just can't stop thinking about you. All that I crave when you're away, nights are sleepless. Do we need space? Yeah, maybe a break. Boy, you're my weakness. Give and we take, the love that we make, it's my favorite drug. Too caught up in your love. I've been trying to forget, but you won't let me. Something in my brain wants you. I've been hanging by myself, asking for help, but nothing seems to work on you. Yeah, you always make me feel like home. Yeah, you never leave my thoughts alone. Yeah, you're the reason I'm going out my mind. I just can't stop thinking about you. You got me feeling some type of way. You make me wanna stay in all day. You're the reason I can't get out my head. I just can't stop thinking about you. 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 I just can't stop thinking about you.
Head underwater, I'm falling back into you. I thought we'd be smarter, I got nothing left to lose. You said you fall with me, no matter how far it goes. Down deep and under, we're stuck in this pattern, but I need you close. All I ever wanted was for you to prove me wrong. You're changing our colors again and again. I could never let you go. Something about you feels so different, makes me wanna risk it. Every time I look at you, you pull me back into your river. Swim a little deeper, I don't need to breathe with my head underwater. not sure I really care. We're all of our demons.